Welcome to Tech Talent Today, where IT leaders share their tough challenges, creative solutions, and latest insights. You'll discover fresh ideas and inspiration here with your host, IT staffing veteran and president of Claremont Technologies, Jody Kulik-Mayer. And now, here's Jody.
In today's complex digital world, businesses rely on countless systems. But what happens when these systems don't communicate effectively? Many organizations struggle because while system integration isn't always a dedicated department, it absolutely requires a clear strategy and vision to ensure all your crucial data flow seamlessly. I'm thrilled to welcome back Mohammed Shanab, a director in IT specializing in application and data integration. Today, Shanab is here to demystify system integration and explain why it's absolutely critical for success and why a focused approach to integration is vital for any organization. In this episode, we'll dive into the major pitfalls of poor integration, like frustrating data inconsistencies and inefficiencies that drain time and resources. You'll learn how strong integration ensures data integrity, providing real-time, accurate information, crucial for smart decision-making. Shanab will share how effective strategies can save your organization significant time and cost, transforming disjointed processes into a streamlined, productive environment. If you're looking to avoid common integration headaches, improve data flow, and truly optimize your organization's IT landscape, then this episode is a must listen. Welcome, Shanab. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Jody. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for this opportunity.
I'm so glad to have you. So to start, can you explain what systems integration is and why it's so important today?
Sure. So systems integration is kind of the backbone in any IT systems or any organization depending on an IT system. So this is where the actual data exchanges happen between applications or between two points. Why this is critical is without this, the organization cannot maintain something called data integrity, right? So when someone, maybe a client or customer or an internal employee, goes into one application, says some set of data, sees Jody and your last name, and you're living in this place, a particular address. You move to a different address and it's updated on one system. And if it's not flowing the right thing to another system, you would be frustrated when you log into and see that, oh, you're still being shown in an older address. So this is where system integration comes into picture. It's making sure data is exchanged efficiently between applications or between a source and a target. It may not be even applications. And maintain that data integrity in the organization, because data is the critical thing within the organization, right? Without that, most of the functions or most of the operations in the organization is kind of mute. So designing a very good strategy for a system integration in the organization is very critical in this case. There could be different strategies as well. You could have point-to-point, which is the least preferred. You could have batch type or real-time. So those are different types of integrations that we can implement. That's why this system integration is kind of very critical. Sometimes it doesn't get the real attention or highlight because it's not very flashy like a UI, because it runs behind the scenes. People don't see what's going on. It's always taken for granted that, okay, it's going to work. We're just going to connect to systems and it's just going to work. But the strategy for how we are going to implement system integration is very, very critical in the organization, because it kind of defines how the vision is for the organization going into the future as well. With advent of all these latest technologies, we can talk more on that later. But that's what system integration is about, and that's why that's critical to an organization.
Right. So you're saying that some organizations don't have like a specific systems integration group or function?
Yeah. Many, I would say majority of the organizations, they don't really look at integration as a key aspect in their roadmap. It's just part and parcel of each of the siloed systems. So what is happening in many of the organization is these siloed groups of IT departments, they would create their own strategies of system integration, right? And there would be no clear communication between two systems. What this ends up doing is there'll be a lot of confusion on how the data is exchanged. There'll be issues of, as I said before, you might not get the right data at the right time. There would be recreation of integration across the board because one siloed group of people might have created an integration between two systems, and then the other group would create the same thing on their side as well. So what is needed in an organization is a centralized strategy. We understand, okay, these are the critical systems from which is the source of data. This has to be connected to the various systems. So there are certain things a system integrator might want to ask, like what data is required for a particular function to work. When do you need the data? What is the level of security that we have to put on those data? So those kind of things might be critical. And when you build one set of integration, we'll have to kind of strategize that way that it is reused in the future and it's not that rebuilt every time. What happens in most of the organization is we call it a spaghetti kind of because you connect various systems to each other. It's called point to point, and then it ends up being like a very confused environment. And that's why we have to have a centralized group of people who's going to kind of vision how these integrations have to be built. It could be from between applications to automate certain operations, or it could be a data strategy, how the data is being exchanged. So those are the things that is very, very critical in an organization.
So do you find that the point-to-point is most common, especially if somebody doesn't have that centralized group? And you said that is the least desirable.
Yeah, I would not say it's common. It's the most easiest, I would say.
Right.
Why that becomes common is because the integration is thought as an afterthought, right? When you implement a new application or implement a new project, suddenly it strikes you that, oh, we need data from this application, and then you're already into the implementation of the project, and then the easiest thing at that point of time is to do a point-to-point, just connect that. From a technical perspective, it could be just a file drop or something like that. But tomorrow, when, say, one of these sources is to be integrated to another system, now you have to build out the point-to-point system. So that's what I said before. It creates kind of a spaghetti kind of an environment in the integration space. So what we have to do is we have to identify things like source of truths, like, for example, a customer data. Where do we have to now go for a customer data? It should not be that a customer data is being, I'm giving examples, customer data is being exchanged from a customer hub into, say, a sales system, right? And then tomorrow there is an expense system that's coming up, and then we have to now, since the sales and expense system is part of a particular division in IT, they would just do that integration between the sales and expense system. But the source of data is actually from the customer hub. And then that should be where we should get. This is an example of how the strategy should be. What happens in this case is if the customer hub to the sales system gets the data exchange, it's not right, then the expense system also will not get the right data. So this is an example of how wrong the strategy could be, and then how the right way of doing it. We call this a data-driven strategy, where we find the source of truth for a particular data, and then we connect to that particular source of truth every time.
Right. So do you find that you work a lot with the chief data officer in these type of situations?
So the chief data officer is the one who decides the structure of data that needs to be exchanged. They also decide the source of truth as well. But it's a combination of the enterprise architecture and the data architecture teams to decide on what is the strategy for integration. It's not only the data officer or data architecture team that is involved. The enterprise architecture is very much involved in this. If you see most of the enterprise architects that come up today will have some kind of a system integration background because they'll know how to have a kind of a vision of how these different applications talk to each other, right? And that's how you come up to to be an enterprise architecture. So, data officer, yes, they do play a key role. The enterprise architecture also plays a key role in defining these integration strategies.
So, what do you think some of the tangible benefits are to companies that do have a director of systems integration?
The biggest thing is having a centralized decision-making point where, so in my past experience, what my task was to create a centralized strategy for the organization, be it in terms of architecture, be it in terms of best practices, standards, whatever. And then this reference architecture was used in each of these project implementations. So whenever a new project implementation or an application implementation was coming up, it was brought to this particular group of or to me. And then we would say, okay, these are the different kinds of integration that we need to build. And these are the reference architecture we could start matching to these, right? And making sure that in case there is an existing integration at some point, we try to reuse that. So what I've seen in various organizations that I've worked is this has like reduced 40% in terms of cost as well, because we have to do that additional work to redo all these things. When we have rework, reuse in place, when we have some standardized way of combining multiple components to create an integration in place, we call it composable architecture. These kind of help in reducing cost, right? So we just now play building blocks and then combine these and then build these integrations. So it helps in reducing cost, it helps in reducing effort, it helps in reducing errors and improving reuse as well.
Wow, that's fantastic. And from your perspective, what kind of technical talent and skills are most in demand for successful systems integration projects?
From my experience, I started off as an API developer, like a web service developer back in the days. That would give you an idea of how data exchanges happen. So if you can visualize that and kind of decide on how to kind of position these APIs so that they can be built into tangible integrations, that's one skill that everybody needs to have. But these APIs could be replaced by components in different middleware products as well. So it would be good if you have experience on the various IPaaS platforms like MuleSoft, Dell Boomi is another one which is popular. And there are a lot of them that's coming up right now, like Trade.io and Workato is another popular product. So these are platforms that's available for integrations, especially on the integration platform as a service. It would be good if you have experience on one of these. You can cross-learn between these IPaaS platforms. You don't need to if you work on MuleSoft, doesn't mean that you can't work on the others. But it would be good to have that kind of an experience as well. The concepts of these platforms are very similar. So that's another skill that would be good to have. But more than that, it's more about how you can visualize on these integrations and make sure the right solutions or right architectures are being put in the various requirements for these integrations.
Mm-hmm. And how do you see the technical skills evolving with the rise of AI?
So integrations are going to be very key for AI because the main backbone or main component of an AI is data, right? And if you don't provide the right data to an AI is not going to give you the right answers, or it's not going to perform the right way. So in order to provide this data, how do you now make sure an efficient way of providing it at the right time, providing it the right way? That's where integration comes into picture, right? It's not only about connecting to applications, it's about delivering data, right? For AI, that's one of the key aspects. Without the right data or the right data at the right time, AI is kind of not very usable. That's where this is very critical for the new technologies.
I would think that AI might be a driver of more demand for a system integration group because of the prominence of data?
Yeah, absolutely. If you see, there is a lot of newer terms and newer, I would say, architectures like MCP and everything coming up. The backbone of which is APIs, and APIs is a component of system integration, right? And without those components, AI cannot function, I would say, because if you don't deliver data at the right time, as I said before, the usability of AI is not going to be that great.
So what advice would you have for companies that don't have a system integration group and are thinking about it?
First and foremost is looking at how you're visioning your system integration strategy. There could be two ways to think about it. One is it data-driven? Are you going to have a data-driven kind of integration, or are you looking at integration as an automation strategy, right? So those are two different ways that organizations start looking at integration. So once you have that in place, you start building those teams and then having a centralized group who would decide on what strategies need to be built for the organization. Without a clear integration strategy in your organization, at some point you will feel the load of how to consume this data or how to deliver this data. From simple things as when some data is not delivered at a critical time to a particular target, there might be points where you spend weeks to kind of identify the issues, right? With a clear data integration strategy, that would be kind of very quick. And coming back to the other point as for development as well, if you don't have a clear integration strategy, you could be spending much more time in building these integration, or much more. There'll be a lot of cost involved in building these integration solutions. So, if anyone wants more details, you can contact me on how to build these integration strategies. But I would clearly say that we need to have that kind of a vision in the organization to build these integration strategies or integration solutions, and then it should be something that's developed with a core set of stakeholders and then evangelized across the organization as well.
Well, we'll put your LinkedIn link in the show notes so people could get in touch with you if they had a question.
Sure.
So, Shanab, this was great. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Jody. Thanks for this opportunity. And the system integration, as I told you, it's a very passionate subject for me. So thanks for this opportunity to talk about it. I hope your listeners gets enough interest on system integration and then further looks into that area as well.
Thanks for listening to Tech Talent Today, brought to you by Clearmont Technologies IT Staffing and Search. You can find out more at clearmonttech.com. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and share. See you next time.